Okay, and we are live. Welcome to the Grillstream, the only stream in the world dedicated to radical centrism. I am your host, Orion. Joining me, as always, is Micah. What's up, big guy?
What's going on? My inaugural grill stream.
The inaugural Grillstream. Look, we have a debate lined up today with a real red-blooded communist, non-smoker. This is a man that I encountered, and I posted a teaser, if you would, of our first confrontation, our first argument. We're going to see where this goes. We have a few points to hit. I'm going to go ahead and send him the link. In the meantime, Micah, how are you feeling, man? You know, what's good with
I'm
you?
excited. I'm excited. I haven't seen somebody that angry in a long time, and I've definitely never interacted with somebody that angry. So I'm hoping that this gets juicy.
I really hope we just don't like give the guy a heart attack, you know? I hope that we don't do medical damage to this guy. Like, I don't know. He definitely made me lose a few
The
brain
average
cells,
wink
but
cuck's response to seeing a centrist out in public
just pure
living their
anger.
best life.
I think it might be an envy thing. I think they might just be wired to be like ontologically angry at all times. Like it's just a response to their general ineptitude. Like
It
I
really doesn't
see.
help. It really doesn't help when you're like when you've got the complete chrome dome baldness going on, so you can see the literal veins popping as you're exploding with rage.
No, it doesn't help at
But
all.
I
I
have a
do think
feeling
the
he
bald. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, I have a feeling he might pull a fast one on us and come at us with a sort of different approach, a more intellectual response than last time, just to take us, throw you off your guard.
I mean, we'll see about that. He is here. Device is not connected, so it's going to be a second before we can add him in. Do you think that people that don't have hair, I've noticed that bald people are always more angry. And is it because like God betrayed them? Or like what's the deal with that? Like does anger Oh, there we go. There he is.
Yeah.
Hey, non-smoker. How are you doing there, buddy? Welcome to the
I'm
Grillstream,
good,
the
bro.
only
I'm good.
stream
How
in
are
the
you?
world dedicated to radical centrism.
Good, good. Yeah, thanks for having me on, man. I'm good. How are you guys?
We're
Doing
doing
great.
fantastic. We're doing fantastic. We're ready for some some intellectual discourse here, really getting into the nitty-gritty of what's going on in our society today. Yeah, are you ready for that? Are you feeling good?
Yeah, man. I mean, let's have it. I did listen to a little bit of your content, like I guess, I don't know, 2/3 of an episode of your podcast, a couple of your like YouTube shorts. So I think I get the gist of what you guys are doing, but yeah, I mean, hit me with whatever.
I noticed that you're a lot less angry than when we first talked. I think that maybe that the podcasts you listen to, it's like medication for people that are angry. Because the grill pill in its essence will free you from the anger that you hold in your soul, the wing cucked anger. Um, Also, by the way, good shirt. Typo Negative's a
Yeah.
cool band.
Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks. Yeah, so I mean the anger thing. So when we first encountered one another, that was in the waiting room for Wick's his call-in show.
Right.
And the reason I was so pissed was because when Wick booted me out of our conversation, I felt like he was being a massive fucking pussy about it. He kind of baited me into that, and this should interest you guys because I feel like I could be wrong, but I get the sense that you probably have similar feelings about censorship, similar feelings than I do, or similar feelings to my feelings
You use a
about that.
lot of the same language that we do, so we appreciate that about you.
Yeah, it's I look, I think censorship is dumb, and I think that all of this is very unserious in general. So censoring people is like retarded, generally speaking. And
Right. Right.
I felt like Wick kind of asked me a question knowing what I would respond with the sole intention of just booting me out of the call, which I felt like was a real pussy thing to do. So I was pretty heated about that. And then, you and I got into it a little bit, which was interesting. Um, And I got the sense you were mostly just trolling me, which is, it's all in fair game.
No,
But
I don't
but
engage in trolling. I'm a very good faith actor.
I could tell. Dude, so a day later, my PayPal got banned because somebody reported me for something, and it's perma banned with no opportunity for appeal, which is fucking crazy.
That is rough. That is shitty, bro. Because look, I agree with you on the whole censorship issue. Because it's one of those things. I want to see communists, fascists, all the wing cucks posting their retarded rantings online. It's very entertaining to me. It gives our show a lot of content, and the more that we sweep you people under the rug, like, what do I have to work with then? You know?
Yeah. Look, I agree with you, particularly when it comes to like far right people. And honestly, a lot of the left wing people who are these fucking maniacal, like anarchist Maoist types who want to like blow up and burn down the communities that they live in to somehow help people. Like, yeah, okay, let those people dig their own grave, in a way. Like, let them say all the retarded shit they want to say so everybody can see how fucking stupid they are.
Well, how would you separate yourself from those types of leftists?
Yeah, I'm a Marxist-Leninist, and I think to most people on Twitch, they kind of categorize those things all together. To me, I have a pretty pragmatic take on it. It's not that I look at like Lenin or Stalin and I'm like, wow, that was based. We should do that here. Like that doesn't make any fucking sense. I have an appreciation for those guys for their historical impact.
Yeah.
I also think that they're victims of like insane smear jobs. But obviously they made mistakes. Obviously there were legitimate criticisms. But I look to communism historically as a movement because, and I look at it as something that inspires me and something that I feel like has value today politically, in that it describes the natural tendency of capitalist systems to sort of fall apart. And communists initially were simply trying to address that inevitability and establish a system which would transition us into like a post-capitalist world. So I think there's a lot of hope for that in 2023 with automation. If we learn, especially from the mistakes of the previous communist projects and, and some of their successes as well.
Well, I can kind of appreciate your take as far as owning the historical accuracies of communism, because I feel like a lot of left wingers will kind of look at things that happened in the past and basically say, well, those were just kind of oopsies, those were bad things that happened, but they weren't supposed to happen. It wasn't supposed to be this way. Because I feel like most communist revolutionaries throughout history have kind of ended up being cucked by their own movements, so to speak. So I'm kind of wondering, where you see yourself as far as that goes.
I do want to add on before you go in. As far as the cucked thing goes, like the end goal of communism is like we're gonna it's a transitory thing, right? We're gonna go and it'll become stateless and everyone's gonna be happy. But really, they all work towards authoritarianism. At the end of the day, it always devolves into that. It seems like to me, I haven't seen any examples counter to that. So they're kind of cucking for the state there. But
Yeah,
yeah,
that's what I meant by cucked.
yeah. So, yeah, go ahead, non-smoker.
Yeah, it goes into a little bit of one of my more out there takes, I guess. But I'm of the belief, first of all, you mentioned like the classless, stateless thing. And that is, the overall end goal of the communist projects, right? But I think people fail to like realize in Russia and China anyway, where they started was so far behind the industrial West. It's unbelievable. And to think that they would, in even 100 years, be anywhere remotely close to a classless, stateless society is ridiculous. That's why so many Western leftists hate Russia and China, because they're fucking morons. Or they just like them because they like to LARP and they like to like show Mao pictures and be like, wow, I want to kill my landlord, you know, like.
Yeah, we get that a lot. Like, I'm a landlord. I get landphobic comments like that all the time. So I know exactly what you're talking about there, bud.
Well, yeah, and like Mao was targeting like feudal landlords who held like hundreds of acres of property and were like people were living in like squalor and misery under him. It was very different than like a guy who rents an apartment to someone. That's like not at all comparable whatsoever. But okay, so just I wanted to get that out of the way to say like the capitalist idea is similar to the communist one in that they think capitalists think prosperity and all of these things can be spread more equitably if we just allow the free market to do its thing. So in a lot of ways, the communists and the capitalists, all economic systems of thought, they really at their core, they're like their main goal is to properly allocate resources. Right? They just disagree on how to do that. That's the fundamental thing. But we all agree, capitalist, communist, whatever, that we're nowhere near that level. Like it's not going to happen in our lifetime.
I actually disagree with that. I think that capitalism has accelerated us to the point where our resources are so abundant that we just throw shit away all the time because we have so much of it. Like, check this out. I went and got some nutritious, delicious McDonald's earlier today, right? You know, get my energy levels up for the show, get ready to go, pretty ripped, all that stuff. And that cost me 4 minutes of my life. For 4 minutes of my life, I was able to exchange that for a delicious, nutritious meal that left me happy. And so I just don't see any communist country like how long are you in the bread line for? 2 hours for some bread?
Well, I mean, by your own logic, okay, so let's take America in isolation and let's forget that we source most of the things we have from labor that takes place, a lot of it which takes place outside of this country. You know, let's assume that like America just exists in a vacuum and all of this wonderful prosperity is just here because it's here because we're America and we're great. Yes. All right. Well, if I'm to entertain that, right? So by given that model, we could have a communist system, which would just mean we allocate all of this wealth more properly to people, so everybody has McDonald's instead of a percentage of people who don't have the ability to eat or at least eat with regularity or the same regularity that you do.
Well, the problem with that is that we have this trickle-down system which works really well. You see, this abundance, it comes from this top class of producers. You know, the greatest minds, people like me who make things happen, right? And through our generosity, we allow it to trickle down. It's like we're pissing on the lower classes, but it's not pee necessarily, you know? It's food and shelter and everything somebody needs to prosper in a society. I don't think that we're in a place where anybody, really anybody, doesn't have the tools they need to lift themselves up by their own bootstraps. I failed to see that.
I mean, listen, I think my perspective is different, partially not just opinion based, but from like life experience. You know, so I work as a teacher. Thank you for the follow, Velma. I work as a teacher, and I've worked in mostly poor communities the whole time I've been a teacher. And I've seen kids who grow up in like housing projects or homeless shelters to crackhead parents. It's really not the kind of thing where you can pick yourself up from your bootstraps. I know that we have this notion that like if you work really hard and take on a lot of individual responsibility, you're going to succeed. The truth is, you stand a much greater chance of succeeding. That's definitely true. If you don't try at all, you're fucked. But these kids, they have to work significantly harder to get to where I am or maybe you are. And the idea that they would ever raise or they'd ever achieve, anything above that is like, it's so far, generally speaking, on the average, it's so far out of their reach, it's not even funny. And they're well aware of this. They end up bailing out on it, bailing out on the trying shit somewhere around college because they end up with all this debt. They don't really know why they're in college. They can't get a job just out of high school that pays any kind of, reasonable wage. So they end up, turning to drugs or some other bullshit, selling drugs or whatever, and then they end up in jail.
I
Yeah.
think you're missing that is, I feel like there's two sides to that coin. I feel like you're probably correct. Some, I assume, are put in these situations, due to unfortunate circumstances, but there are many of these people who, they kind of just have a certain lifestyle. Aside from homelessness itself being a valid lifestyle choice, there are people that go and they sell drugs and they commit crimes just because they're shitty people and they put themselves into their own shitty situations. And so you kind of have to ask the question, like, and I'm here with you, bud. Like, I understand, like, hating on the rich is, something, even though I myself am well off enough, it is something that I like to do because it's a fun meme and all. But do you have the bravery and the intelligence to also hate the poor when it's necessary?
I mean, I don't hate the rich. I don't think that, like, I don't attribute personal, like, feelings of bitterness towards anybody who is in a different economic situation than I'm in.
Well, I'm not
I think that,
necessarily speaking just on their, what tier of wealth they've achieved, like, not being upset about that, but just like the stupid shit that rich people do. You know what I mean? Like, by, like, just the frivolousness, or like the egotistical
look,
actions. I'm saying like that, and you can also look at poor people and see how some of them act and think to yourself, oh yeah, they probably, that's probably fine the way that is.
no, we're on the same page. What I'm trying to say is, okay, so like rich people who are really wasteful and they do dumb shit. I mean, I went to high school in a pretty upper middle class to wealthy community, right? I know a lot of people who grew up really rich, and I see them do insanely stupid, crazy shit and basically fail upwards. Like, it almost doesn't matter how much they fuck up, they still end up with, like, there's this kid I know who, he was a drug dealer on drugs, total fuck up, basically a dropout. And he ended up, running away. There was like a silver alert for him and blah, blah, blah. And, one of those kids who you would think would just end up dying or in jail. Well, now he like sells Porsches at a dealership because his dad got him a job there. And I don't hate him for that. And I don't hate a poor kid from like a fucked up neighborhood who does dumb, wasteful shit with their life either. I understand that they're doing that because of the economic circumstances they're dealt. That's like materialism, right? Like,
Well,
yes,
look, that
individually play a
okay,
part in it.
good.
No, yeah, individually they play a part in it. I'm not a pure materialist in that sense, but I also understand that your material conditions, if you grow up poor, you grow up rich, that is a huge determinant in how you behave. So it's not a total excuse, but to me, it's like, do I hate rich people because they're wasteful? No, it actually makes sense that they are. They have so much wealth, they don't know what to do with it.
So we have two examples here, right? We have the downtrodden poor kid who was selling drugs, and we have this well-off, I assume, white middle-class kid who was selling drugs. Why did they reach disproportionate outcomes? Was it because of some intrinsic thing? Or was it because maybe the middle-class white kid who was selling drugs, he knew, look, my customer base needs to be guys who sell Porsches, you know? If I sell to people who
No,
sell Porsches, if I sell to
his
people who are
dad,
going to
his
give
dad
me
got
opportunities, then
no,
maybe I can get myself out of this. That sounds
no,
like a grind set to me, as opposed to being like, oh yeah, I'm going to sell to
I
crackheads.
do You
Who
do
do
no.
you
hear a lot of the time it's
associate
more
with?
about who you know and less
Yeah,
about what you
His
exactly.
do.
dad got him a job. His dad got him the job.
Well, are you
I mean,
sure
my
about
dad got
that?
me my first
I'm
job.
100%
What's wrong with
sure.
that?
No, it's just, I mean, you guys, I would think, would make an argument for like the people who are the people who are the highest achievers are the most talented, the most able,
No,
whatever, and therefore the most deserving. Well, maybe you
no,
don't think that, but
no.
that's a standard argument about capitalism, right? Or in defense of capitalism. It's like, well, we have this inequality, but it should be that way, right? Because these people need to have that amount of resources because they can properly, disperse them through hiring people and giving people jobs and selling stuff and getting people the things that they need. And, we want a society like that. Well, in the case of this guy I knew, and it's one example, it's just personal experience. so it's not definitive. But his father literally, even though he was a massive fuck up his whole life, and by the way, him selling drugs was like, selling dime bags of weed. He wasn't Tony Montana, but he got a job selling Porsches simply because his dad wanted to get him out of, being a fuck up and give him something respectable to do. As to his efficacy as a salesman, I really can't speak to that. I'm not in the Porsche buying class of people, but I would imagine it's probably irrelevant because he's hired by his father. His father wouldn't fire him if he was a terrible salesman either, because he hired him even though he had no sales experience.
Well, personally, like, I am of the Porsche buying class, and if I was to go buy a Porsche, I'd want it to be from somebody who was on cocaine. I find them to be the best salesmen, so I feel like maybe, he had the experience, he had sales experience, he had a nose for the job. To me, it seems like he didn't fail upwards. It seems like he took his own strengths and he applied them towards, becoming a productive member of society.
Yeah, well, listen, a lot of salesmen do coke. I guess that's a reasonable point to make. I'm not sure how many salesmen go missing. Like, I feel like they're the kind of working class cokehead who at least comes to work and shows up and does their thing. But whatever. I mean, I don't think him being a cokehead means that he's a bad salesman. But I'm really not summarizing properly how much of a fuck up this guy was. He was just a major fuck up. And again, it's one example. We don't have to belabor it too much. But
yeah,
there are people, wealthy people, who clearly they get breaks for being wealthy. And I don't resent them for that. If I was a super rich dad, I would probably give my fuck up son a job because I wouldn't want him to keep fucking up, and I want him to have somewhere he has to report to every day, something to do, give him the impression he's working for his money. It makes sense. It's just, the question is that the best setup? Is there a way that we can reorient the economy so that it's more efficient and more effective? I think
could you answer this hypothetical for me? If you were in a position of immense power, where you're able to, exploit thousands of people for your own personal gain, and this is not a government position, would you still be a communist?
I mean, it's an interesting hypothetical. I think if
if you were in a government position, you might still be a communist. It just depends on, but
yeah, no, I get what you're saying. I mean, okay, so if I grew up like just obscenely wealthy and I never had to worry about money, and I came in control of either by being given control of or starting a company, a large company where I employ, as you said, thousands of people, and I have customers in the hundreds of thousands, maybe millions, would I still be a communist? I'd say it's much less likely. I didn't grow up poor either, though. I didn't grow up even working class. I grew up in a pretty middle class family. So I would say, maybe some of that's my view on materialism. It's like a percentage of what you think and feel is determined by your material conditions, and then a percentage of it is, your own action.
Do you think that sort of invalidates a lot of the criticisms that, certain figures like Donald Trump get from the left, since he is a product of his environment?
Yeah, I mean, look, okay, this is diverting from your point a little, but it's important for me to say. I think most of the criticisms about Donald Trump from the left are fucking ridiculous. Like, the political class in America is so unbelievably corrupt, like at every fucking level, and has been for decades and decades and decades. And, the idea that this outsider who says mean things is like the worst person ever, when like you had George W. Bush who killed like hundreds of thousands of Iraqis because of a retarded, foreign policy decision. But like, because he sits next to Ellen DeGeneres. It's like, oh, he's so nice. I miss W. Like, what the fuck are we talking about? So any criticisms about Trump, in my view, are stupid. A vast majority of them. Thanks, James Bucks. But yeah, in terms of like people who get on Trump because he started started out wealthy and became wealthier, you know, that's the expected outcome. You know, did people think Trump would really sell, you know, like decide like, actually, I'm going to be poor, you know, and just like be homeless by choice? Like, that's really dumb. You know, people who think that are idealistic morons.
I do think that you know, rich people do have their own cross to bear, really. They never, you know, they don't get the chance to ever become homeless and live that experience where you get to be nomadic, where you truly have autonomy over your own life. When you're rich, you know, you're in this position where you have to keep this wealth, you have to grow it, you have to grind. You don't get this true freedom that the homeless chads across America themselves get to experience. I think a lot of people overlook just how hard it is for rich people in our country.
Right. Well, look, you're actually making an interesting point that a lot of communists talk about online, and it does speak to something that comes up in Marx a fair bit, and Marx adjacent, you know, communist texts, is that a lot of the goal of communism is just giving people more free time. And, you know, it's kind of the same goal that homeless people and really rich people have. It's like, well, you know, inherently, nobody really wants to work if the work is doing something they don't want to do.
Do we
So
want
want
more people to have free time in the era of the internet? Because I personally don't want that.
Yeah, I think it is better that we have these people, you know, keeping themselves occupied so I don't have to see
I would
them.
rather have to contend with my own wage slavery than deal with the incoherent ramblings of, you know, the entire United States population 24/7.
It would be like a country of Reddit moderators.
I feel like we're on the way to that now anyway, but
yeah.
Fuck, man, that's actually an interesting point. And I think that there's serious problems with like social media and porn and like OnlyFans is porn, but you know, a lot of this shit. I mean, even streaming it, there's stuff about it I like, but there's also a dimension to this, which is like lots of very, very mentally sick, shut-in people doing weird shit, saying weird shit. Like that's, I don't know. It's like these bands of trolls online who do mass reporting, and you know, there's lots of like shit online, and you make a good point, like, is more free time good? And what I would argue is a lot of those people have lots of free time now, and you know, that's usually because they can't find a job to sustain themselves on their own. They can't move out of their parents' house because they can't afford to, so they're stuck at home with their parents, and they're basically neats. And it would be good if we could, through the government, get these people to work rebuilding America's infrastructure, and you know, give them enough free time to pursue their interests, but also give them something productive to do that's beneficial for all of us.
You know, one thing that we did back in the day, when we had these big programs putting people to work, that's a lot different than what we're doing now. Is part of it was a eugenics thing, where they would put these people to work, but they didn't have the safety protections that you needed, right? So you'd have these people going, and then they'd die off working on railroads or working on, you know, bridges, whatever. So I think a big part of that is we need to make sure that we don't have these safety nets in place for them. Like we need the strongest to survive. We need the strongest amongst them to you know, put in the work, come out at the end. But we can't just have everybody come out, you know, feeling like they did a good job, because not everyone deserves it. Ethical slave labor. Thank you. Thank you, commenter. Okay.
Well, what if you made it so that like, okay, the people who are the least efficient, like, give everybody a mandatory labor service, and the people who are least efficient laborers, those are the people that we just don't, they work without any kind of like safety regulations applying to them or whatever. How would you feel about that? Because that's survival of the fittest, kind of, you know? That would be like eugenics, right? The people who can't actually carry their own load.
I heard about half of that. You kind of, my internet's not very good, so
I heard something about carrying a load.
Out.
Okay, let's just leave it at your idea sucks, mine's good.
Okay, I'm fair. See, that's an argument I can get behind. Just saying, no, you're stupid, and I will not elaborate. That's something that I can agree with that. So I want to move on to a different topic, though. I have a few points I wanted to hit. Let me check my notes here. So you deny the Holodomor, and we're not going to ban you for this because, you know, I think that denying genocides is based generally. I just want to know why you believe this and what led you to this conclusion.
So I don't deny that a famine happened. Obviously, a famine happened, and the famine was caused or exacerbated, more accurately, by Soviet collectivization policy. So that is all true. I've never stated that that's not true whatsoever. The part that I have a contention with, and guys, it's a non-controversial thing. It's controversial, but it's not. My take is not absurd, even among liberal academic historians. And that is that it was not a targeted genocide of Ukrainians. And the proof of that, the most simple proof of that, is that the famine in question affected Russia too, and Kazakhstan. Like, the entire Soviet Union was suffering a famine. It wasn't just Ukraine.
So I see this famine occurring. It seems like it happens a lot in communist countries, and it kind of brings me back to that idea, you know, where they couldn't eat, millions of them starving to death because they can't allocate resources correctly. Whereas in base neoliberal capitalism, 4 minutes, 4 minutes, and I got this delicious, nutritious meal. And so it kind of seems to me like this is a 20th century ideology trying to be applied to the 21st century. You know, that's the past. Neoliberalism is the future. We're gonna green new worlds. You know, we're marching forward.
Interdimensional.
We're going interdimensional. That's what we're doing. We're going interdimensional. There's an abundance of resources that trickle down to the common man. More personal autonomy than ever seen before. So I guess, like, if you have this idea that it was a misallocation of resources under the Soviet Union, something that happens to a lot of communist countries whenever they're attempted, how do you rectify that going forward? How do you make communism into a 21st century ideology?
All right. One thing first, just to get out of the way. What century did capitalism develop again?
Capitalism evolves. That's the thing about capitalism by nature, because
when was it first articulated?
1776, baby. Let's fucking go.
Before that. Wealth of Nations, dude. 17th century. Okay, so it's older than communism, just so we're clear. But
only a little bit. It's only a little bit.
But it adapts.
Well, yeah. So, and then in terms of it being modern, I mean, China is a communist country. They're in the 21st century, and I know that that's going to get me shit from both leftists and people on the right. But the fact is, it's an entirely planned economy. Does it have market liberalization? Of course. They also have 5-year plans. They also have state-owned enterprises. They also have members of the party on these the boards of these giant companies. And at least according to Goldman Sachs, by the 2030s, China is going to be the largest economy in the world, outpacing America. So it seems to me that the communists, in terms of development, are kind of winning that race. But just to the famines.
Wait, you think China's communist?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But before we get to that, just on the matter of the famines, 2 things, and this is very common copium, but it does speak to reality. There are famines under capitalism. They're far less common nowadays in the world, period. But there are famines under capitalism. And a classic example is the famines that took place in India while the British ruled over India. But okay, aside from that, yes, famines took place in the Soviet Union and China. In Russia, though, particularly, and China, the frequency of famines in general actually reduced under communism in both places. So if you look at the history of famines in Russia prior to the communists coming to power, even though the famines under the collectivization were more severe than prior famines.
Weren't they still getting like tons of agricultural imports from capitalist countries, though?
The Soviet Union, you mean?
Yeah.
To be honest, I don't have like statistical data.
That's just what I learned in, like, you know, AP World or.
No, I wouldn't deny that they imported agricultural goods from the U.S., but they're obviously like a large grain exporter. It's one of their main exports. The Soviets, specifically, Ukraine, province of Ukraine, Soviet province of Ukraine, and Russia. But they almost completely eliminated famines, which were a regular feature of life in Russia for, centuries prior. And the same is true in China. They were devastating famines, and they were definitely caused by or at the very least, severely exacerbated by collectivization, which was an objective failure in China and mostly a failure in the Soviet Union. But at the end of the day, at least initially, but at the end of the day, they ended up succeeding.
Except for the Holodomor.
Well, the Holodomor, again, you guys know, I mean, I take it you're not big time like Ukraine cheerleaders, right?
I kind of have a very nuanced opinion on the whole Ukraine thing. I think anything that benefits America is generally good. Like Hunter Biden going there, getting hundreds of thousands of dollars, making lots of money. He's like that guy that you were bringing up earlier, working at a car dealership now, except taken to 100. That's the kind of grind set that Hunter Biden's on. And so I like to see the president's family doing well as a result of this. Also, I think that anything that we can use to flex our immense military might that we've established under capitalism and show the world, we don't even have to be there. We can just send like our runoff trash to these horrible people and have them do our dirty work, and we're still going to BTFO you. I think that that's generally a net benefit for the Americans. I wouldn't want the Russians or Chinese or any other axis of power to win, because when they come, if they won, they come over here, they're not going to listen to people being like, wait, I was on your side. I like communism. Okay, face the wall, you fucking whitey. Bam. And that's it.
Yeah, I mean, Ukraine specifically, I couldn't really care less about. I do have a lot of Raytheon stock, though, so it's always, good to see certain things in the news. And
right, pump those numbers up. Pump those numbers up.
Okay, fair enough. But look, I take it that neither of you are really buying into this narrative that like we have to stand with Ukraine and support them because they're a budding democracy, and we're actually fighting for freedom here. They're fighting for freedom in the abstract, and our support of them is also supporting freedom in the abstract. Okay.
We have to use that narrative and rhetoric to sell it to the most retarded people in our country so that I can make more money off of this. Right.
You're right. No, you're right. You're right. That's actually real. That's literally all it is. Okay. So it might interest you to know the whole notion of a Holodomor, the whole notion of this, targeted genocide of these people through a famine it's literally just like a propaganda tool of Ukrainian nationalists. It always has been. And it according to the historiography, many historians, liberal academics.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, they don't even consider this like I mean, I don't know when you guys went to high school, but this was not like a commonly talked about thing like 20 years ago. Like this has become a new thing, and it's part of the fact that we have warmer relations with Ukraine, and there's a little bit of like political classic, good old-fashioned political psyop shit going on here. Of like, hey, this famine happened. No, actually, it was a genocide of the Ukrainians by the evil Russians. That's why we cannot trust the evil Russians. We have to stop them.
Well, do you trust Russians? They're just a very shifty people in general. Like, I've watched a lot of Marvel movies, and whenever the Russian guy comes out and he's like, yes, we're going to destroy democracy. We're going to kill all American. Like, that scares the shit out of me, man. I see that, and I'm like, we can't let these people get a foothold anywhere. They're ontologically evil.
I mean, I'm of English descent, and I think we're pretty fucking evil too. So I guess it doesn't bother me that much.
I do agree with you there. The Britoids are amongst the worst people on the whole planet. There's a reason that we kicked their asses out of this country and established one that respects
Orion,
the values of God. I'm sorry, what?
I think you need to tone down your stochastic terrorism against Russia, okay, and its people.
Look, they're just scary. I've watched a lot of movies where they're the bad guys, and I now believe that anything they do is ontologically evil. I don't think that that's wrong.
You make a good point. You make a good. I mean, dude. I told you guys I'm a teacher. I literally have students tell me that. They're like, no, Russia were the Nazis. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Base.
Russia were the Nazis, and we're fighting them right now. And that happened in Call of Duty. That's why I fought them in Call of Duty. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, well, you got a point there. I can't argue with that. That's why.
No Russian was one of the best levels of all time of any video game.
I mean, yo, like that's. I mean, it's. Look, it speaks to exactly what I'm saying, right? Like many Americans are dumbed down, sometimes intentionally regarding world events, and we just happen to think in this like, bifurcated way of like we're on the good side of the world and there's an evil side. We have to stop the evil side, and that's kind of what made me a communist, was realizing that at a young age that's all bullshit. It's all made up bullshit, all of it.
Except communism.
Well, look, like guys, before I was a communist, I was politically blackpilled. I was basically like, all of this is retarded, all of this is stupid, fucking, it's a total waste of time, it's all rigged, it's all psyop, it's all fake, fuck it all. Communism to me is like the next stage after that, where you're like, okay, there is hope. Right? There is hope. It's just not in what we have now. This can't be preserved.
Sure. We would agree with you there. Absolutely, 100%.
We are optimists, at the end of the day. I just wonder how you can be optimistic about communism when you see, how do you feel about your fellow cohorts, the people on your side in this country who push for the same ideologies? Because, you're somebody that will come in here and you'll say retard, and you'll talk frankly, and I feel like a lot of people on your side don't necessarily embody that same sort of social positioning. How do you feel about the future of the movement that you champion?
It's a really good question, actually, because a vast majority. So first of all, to be a communist in general means you're in an extreme minority. And most people think that you're ridiculous from jump,
Right.
And then,
being a landlord, I feel that.
Even if minority, a regular fucking poor person would be like, nah, I hate that communism. Like, it's so tough to bridge that gap with regular
truly
people.
The most oppressed class.
And and the freaks who are, okay, the average communist is a fucking like very, very, very like socially alienated, extremely online, terminally angry person who like wants to adopt some ideology. It could be any ideology. They just picked this one that gives them an excuse to hate people and take out, like, it's literally the Jordan Peterson stuff. It's like, that's what communists in the West often are. But what's exciting is there is a contingent of people who call themselves communists. A lot of them are online, but I know people in the party I'm in. I'm in the Communist Party, CPUSA, who really believe in this stuff, and they actually want to reach out and make overtures towards working people, and not just like poor kids who they like will make us feel good for working with, but like our neighbors and our communities. We want to like do good and try to build what we feel like is some sort of meaningful community again. I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm sounding a little redundant and maybe a little bit like, I don't know, overly optimistic. But I really do think that like we can reach out to regular people if we try to meet them at their level, understand what their needs are, and then as a party come together. And this new wave of communists now, who really, they don't want to be edgelords. They really want to help. They want to help rebuild our country. We can kind of determine policy and try to, do our part to fix things. So I see a lot of hope in it.
What I wonder about that is our initial contact. We got a little bit heated there. We got a little bit yelly there, and you were very you're very angry because you weren't allowed on these liberals panels. You weren't allowed to have your voice heard, and you felt that you were slighted in that manner. So when you're trying to court these people, do you think that maybe doing it on Twitch, trying to make a political movement, or even really try and get people on your side, do you think that maybe it's a bit of a waste of time to do that? What are you trying to accomplish if you're trying to make real political change?
No, that's actually one of the more valid questions I've ever been asked about this. Because there's many times I think to myself, just being on here, like, this is fucked. Like, this is totally unworkable. I guess, look, I found myself on Twitch. And I only do this part-time. I have a full-time job where I'm a teacher and I am politically active in the party. Like, I do a lot in my real life to try and do good and achieve my political goals in a meaningful way, or interact with my community on a regular basis, etc. But on Twitch, it's kind of the thing where they basically they banned all of the communist streamers, or the bigger ones anyway, along with a lot of other bigger political streamers. And I've always had a dream of kind of getting into broadcasting, and this is the easiest way to get in because there's zero cost to starting a Twitch channel and just trying to talk about it. And then I quickly realized, to build an audience, you got to do this debate shit. You got to go on the fucking panels. You got to, whatever. Look, I thought initially coming on here, maybe we can win some of these liberal kids over who are mixed up. Maybe we can win over some of these radical left idiots who are mixed up. Maybe we can work with them. And I don't know if we can work with them anymore. Now I'm just doing this for fun. So I don't know how politically effective this is, if at all. But I do.
I mean, that's the real grill pill. Is I mean, you can have your opinions, but it really does come down to how effective is this? Because really, like you're talking about, people going online, people coming on and doing these Twitch debates and doing things. It's just like people are collecting opinions and they're trading them online like Pokemon cards, and thinking that makes them valid. And it's like, well, just like in high school, I think those people are nerds and lame, and I don't care,
So true.
And that's like, we're not here to make people care. We're here, and I get your position originally was to identify us as, or at least Orion, as nihilistic. But that's not really the point. We're not here to make a point about being nihilists or having a nihilist point of view. It's just, we have different goals than people who take their opinions super seriously online. Just because of the nature of it.
I will also say that coming onto Twitch or any of these online spaces and trying to make effective political change, it's kind of a black hole, because the point of political panels isn't for people to go and become informed or, make real choices. The point is blood sports, yelling at people, owning people, making them look like real fucking idiots. And then when the guy you agree with does that, you go, yeah, we fucking did it. Get him. Because we don't have something cool. We don't have gladiatorial battle anymore. We don't have violence in our world anymore, which we desperately need to reclaim. We don't have anything for people to cheer for. It's just sports to these people. It's sports for people that are too gay to actually watch football with their friends because they have no friends. So they come onto Twitch and they watch their favorite noodle-armed cucked Twitch debater come on and make some heckin' valid points about, totally owning the other guy. It's all a bunch of crap at the end of the day.
Dude, I mean, honestly, bro, beautifully said. This is the same shit I say pretty much on a regular basis every time I stream. And that's why I fucking hate panels and I fucking hate debates. Like, almost all of them are like a complete fucking waste of time and ridiculous and not productive whatsoever. Nothing meaningful comes of them. It's just, it's because all of this developed out of the gamer culture, which is like totally owning people. Whoa.
Yeah.
We
were kind of we were kind of expecting you to come in here and you start, throwing out names at us, calling us retarded and this, that, and the third. And, I'd come back and say, yeah, you look like the guy that Kyle Rittenhouse killed. and you're bald, and stop talking about physiognomy. That's a rightoid cope. But this has been quite cordial. So
I'll also say that at the end of the day, it seems like you're almost becoming grill-pilled on it. We're seeing eye to eye on this, where it's not about affecting actual change. And the way that you could make panels fun, where I find them to be really fun, is that you just go on there and act like a complete asshole and just yell at people. There's a lot of value in yelling at people who you have no respect for. And so I would encourage you, next time you join a panel, don't try and change anyone's mind. Don't try and, make arguments in bad faith. Make people seethe. Make them angry. That's what it's all about. That's the name of the game, baby. And then you'll see your numbers go phew, 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 all the way up, because you're the new champion of the blood sport arena.
Dude, I mean, it's, again, like, I only go on them because that's how you get viewers on here. It just is.
Right.
And my hope is once I collect viewers, then I can kind of talk to them, and hopefully they stay for like real discussion. But I've ascertained a few, and that's all I have so far. But to your suggestion, I actually did that on a panel recently. That's how I met Wick. The panel was about should we or shouldn't we platform Nazis. Surprisingly, I would have thought Twitch average streamer would have gone totally the opposite direction, but everybody in there was all for platforming Nazis.
Yeah, they need them for content.
Exactly. they were like, no, I'm going to change their mind by, you really need to reach out to these people and be nice to them. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? You're just taking them on so you can get a ridiculous person to show how smart you are. Or show how good of a person you are. But I went on and I decided basically to do the hardcore, like, fucking totally out there leftist shit. I wore like a Mao hat and like a military jacket, and I was like, they should all be sent to forced labor now, and everybody was freaking out. Like, no! So that's what they're good for. It's just fucking around.
Well, that's you showing, and part of it too is like you're showing them, when you do stuff like that, you're showing them how normal people see them. That's another big part of it. Exactly.
Like, dude, my friends and my family are normal people. They don't go on Twitch, and anybody who a normal person who would be like, this is fucking ridiculous. I mean, like, not to be mean to Wick, but like, Wick is a guy who, like, if a regular person saw Wick, they'd be like, all right, bro, like, this guy has problems. Like, he's sitting there with toys and shit. And like, I don't know, man. Like, what's he talking about? Dog sex? Like, fuck this, And I wanted to kind of smash him and, whatever.
Smash!
Yeah. So it is and now my fucking PayPal's banned.
Yeah, that fucking sucks, bro. That's ridiculous. But, at the end of the day, you're out there talking about anti-capitalist views, and capitalist PayPal says we can't have this. He's getting too powerful. He's reaching the people. Kill him. Smite him where he stands.
I had it coming. Yeah, I totally had it coming.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll happen to us pretty soon too, because having fun isn't allowed anymore. You can't just have fun. No. So.
No, yeah. I mean, look, again, I watched only a little bit of your content, but like, look, you guys, in my opinion, you're not doing anything outrageous. It's honestly, it's kind of par for the course with a lot of content I like. Like, I'm a big Sam Hyde guy. I liked Cumtown at one time. It got kind of old after a while, but like,
they make too many gay jokes. It's
yeah, but that's my point though. Like, you're not doing anything crazy, but
I just can't relate to it because I'm not gay at all. Like,
I'm also not gay.
But this is going in a direction where you guys will eventually get reported and banned, I'm sure. So it's good that you're on Gumroad. It can keep you safe, safer.
Yeah, I do want to just say to the viewers, go check out our Gumroad, for as low as $5. Just $5 dues. 4 minutes of labor, 1 bag of McDonald's. You can support the content that you love to see. Look, every dollar that we get in 2023 will be invested into the show. You know,
Maybe next
better
year
webcam.
I'll have a bathrobe and rose tinted glasses.
Maybe well, you could provide that for Micah. Don't you want to see him in a bathrobe? Don't you want to see him at all? Then give us your hard-earned money. But yeah, I think we're about winding down here. Do you have anything that you want to say or any points that you wanted to hit? I feel like a little bit cheated because it was so fun to yell at each other, and I think you realized that that's what we were going for here, and so you're all calm and reasonable and all this
Yeah,
shit.
I called this at the beginning completely.
Yeah, you did.
That's
No,
okay.
look, I honestly, I mean, the yelling and all that shit, again, it's funny you addressed that whole point about Twitch poll, because that was me trying to play shit up, to get the kind of attention from people that you can get on here. You create drama so that people will watch you. And
Yeah.
that's the whole point. And so anything I said, I obviously didn't seem like you took it that seriously. I didn't take the shit you said seriously. It's all in good fun. So it's good talking to you guys.
Well, there is one thing. There's one thing that I did take very seriously. You insinuated that because I said I'm not gay so many times in our conversation that perhaps I am gay. And I would like you to take that back right now.
I don't know, bro. Those glasses are telling me something different.
All right. So you think that saying a thing, a couple times might be a form of projection, maybe. Is that what you're trying to say here?
It's 2023, man. You do whatever you want to do. I don't judge you. I'm
All
a
right.
communist, right?
Well, let's go ahead and watch this video because I have a little bit of a if that's your line, that me saying that I'm not gay a bunch of times is a form of projection. Do you think that this might be a form of projection? Because you called me
Work
a
at a
pedophile.
pawn shop? You look like Rick Harrison's son. Dude, you look like a drowned sewer rat. You look like someone who was arrested for molesting someone in 2016.
That's very specific, the 2016 part. I feel like that might be a little, I'd let it slide otherwise, but that could be projection, my friend.
You look like someone who was caught by Chris Hansen.
And then, see, let's go for the slow-mo.
You look like someone who was caught by Chris Hansen.
The way that you look off, the ponderous nature in your eyes, like, oh God, did I give it away? Did I give it away? I just want to get your thoughts on that. Why would you say such a horrible thing about me?
All right, I got to be honest. In 2016, I was molested, actually.
Oh my god.
No, man. I
And they don't have any leads on the guy, right?
No.
They didn't say he had like rose-colored glasses or like looked like a sewer rat, any of that sort of thing in the description.
They're unsure yet, but he may or may not be a landlord.
Well, I guess we'll leave it at that.
Unsolved mysteries.
All right, well, it's good talking to you guys. I'll try to keep track of the pod on YouTube or whatever. And yeah, I mean, if you guys are on Twitch, come check me out. Twitch.tv/nonsmoker. Second O is a 0.
Yep. Okay, yeah, everybody go to twitch.tv/nonsmoker. Smoker spelled SM0KER. Go check him out. Obviously, this is a very reasonable guy. When we see leftists, a lot of the time they're the ones that hate people like us. But I think that this guy, he has some valid points. Maybe, possibly, not about a lot of things, but maybe a couple things. And I think that ultimately, we can do a centrist handshake moment.
Epic handshake.
All right, get out of here.
All right, later, guys.
Peace. Well, that was fun.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. I can't believe I called that. I can't believe I called that entire
Yeah, well,
segment going that way.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I think that he kind of got what we were doing. I think the guy is not ontologically retarded like a lot of online wing cucks, so I think he's probably a pretty reasonable guy.
Yeah.
I kind of wish he had screamed at us and stuff, but
Are you not satiated? Do you need me to yell at you, Orion? Do you need me to call you a fat retard?
Okay, look, before we wind down, we can talk about something. The
Sure.
movie we talked about this a little before the show. The movie The Menu.
Yeah.
You've
Yeah.
watched this, right?
Yeah. Yes, I did.
And you said you didn't have a problem with this movie at all.
No, I don't have any problems with it. Please.
I don't understand that position because I watched that movie and the whole time I was watching that stupid prostitute that was with the main character. I identified with the main character, right? The guy
Yeah.
who was there, he's like a food autist.
He's a foodie.
Yeah, he's not just a foodie. He's not just a foodie. He doesn't just have an Instagram where he does the heckin' cool food or whatever. No, this is a guy his whole life is this food autism, his devotion to this chef. And so he hires this whore, literally a prostitute, because he needed a +1 for the event. And he says, look, bitch, here's what you're going to do. You're going to come with me to the sweet island, right? And we're going to sit down. You're going to have some weird rich people food and just shut up and look pretty and eat it. Like, she gets paid to get cummed in. That is her job. But she can't just be a normal person and be like, oh, I'm going to be pleasant. The whole time she's like being nitpicky. What do you mean this meal came without bread? I'm sending it back. Like, you're doing a job. You're getting paid, and she's supposed to be portrayed as some sort of sympathetic character. I wanted her to die so bad, and she never died.
That's your gripe with the movie?
Well, that's one of them. And also it was like
Oh
kind of like a pseudo-intellectual, like, oh, like it's like Parasite. Aren't rich people bad? Aren't rich
I
people
think it was less about I think
great?
it was less about like the rich people and more so just like the culture surrounding like fine dining and just being like a snooty bitch and like having these like high opinions and high tastes and food and stuff like that, and like just taking the joy out of because it's like you go get some food. And it's like that's how she gets away with it. Like that's how she gets out of there is just by asking for a nice greasy hamburger that everybody enjoys. Grilling up a nice juicy greasy hamburger, like everybody loves that. That was literally the message of the movie. Is like stop eating like a fag and just excuse me, I did not say that. Stop acting that way and just enjoy good food.
I mean, I can see that.
I'll leave it
but
at that.
Also, part of the problem is with these rich people, they pay for this experience so they don't have to be surrounded by poor people except for the help. Right? It's a form of gatekeeping. Enjoying, like, if you have these taste buds that are developed in such a way that you can enjoy that sort of thing, that's their God-given right to do so. And they're made out to be villainous for doing that. Do you want to dine around poor people,
Oh,
Micah?
they're not even made out to be villainous because the chef or whatever, he's like batshit crazy. He like asks one of the women like, "Did you pay for college?" No. Okay, then I'm killing you. I mean, there's a lot of people whose parents paid for their college. It doesn't make them like ultra uber rich or like immoral people.
Yeah.
I didn't see it like that. I can get how you might have seen it like that. I didn't think it was a masterpiece, but I mean, if you're just mad that a prostitute didn't die in the movie, I mean, I can sympathize with that feeling. But
they handled her with kitty gloves. They tried to make her like, oh yeah, like this is the person you're supposed to identify with, the person who steps off the boat and is immediately a cunt about everything. She's getting paid to do a job, and they don't even reflect that. They act like she's being somehow like exploited by being here, when really it's the best thing she could be doing with her time.
She literally was being exploited. He needed a +1, and he was aware the entire time that they were all going to die.
Yeah, well, she deserved it for being such.
I think
bitch.
you're
maybe
arguing.
that's why.
Maybe that's why he in bad faith and in bad taste, and I no longer want to participate.
All right, fair enough. You've acquiesced the argument once again. Orion with the victory, with the dub over here. My mental prowess unchallenged. So yeah, I guess that's where we're at.
Well, this was good.
Yeah, this was fun.
This is a good little inaugural stream here.
Yeah, we'll have to do some more at some point. I need to find more retards who will actually scream at us. See, I misjudged this guy. He's a lot more like us than he's not. At the end of the day, is what I've discovered through this stream.
Yeah. No, I like them.
Yeah.
I'm gonna check him out.
What a cool guy. What a cool guy.
I want to rub his head. Make a wish.
All right. I'm sorry. That was really funny. I wish communism would work. Probably not going to work out in the end there. But my Grillas, thank you for watching the inaugural grill stream. Well, I guess we've done it before, but there'll be a lot more of these coming out. Maybe we'll see what happens. Peace out. Enjoy your night. Hit like if you haven't subscribed. Hit subscribe. Go check out our Gumroad at thegrillcast.gumroad.com. And yeah, peace out, my Grillas.